Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going over the online PDF book, AppInventor2 Create Your Own Android Apps by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. We're in the middle of Chapter 10, and we're hopefully just about done with the finishing the first part of our quiz application. In the last part, what we did was we came in and we did some work. We added the QAs, okay? Because what we wanted to do was encapsulate the displaying of our data, our questions and our answers. So I believe that display QAs, if I look in here, that is all finished, to my knowledge. And now that I look at that, I don't know how I would get text color over there, so I'll have to fix that. But question answer label, boom, answer index, boom, for each question and question list, good. Global answer list, a global answer list +1, good. Set answers label.text, good. We've got a join, and this should be question answers label.text. And I've got text color, and I don't know why. Now we've got questions answer label.text. And then we wanted to concatenate to that a new line, the get question, a colon, and the get answer. Oops, sorry. Okay, so it looks like that has been finished. And the author explains here, again, this encapsulates all the blocks for displaying the data by using the procedure. We don't have to copy it as needed, we can just call it as needed. The for each, remember, allows you to iterate through a single list. In this case, there are two lists. So the for each is used to iterate through the question list, but you need to select an answer as well. So to accomplish this, as it says, we'll use an index variable as we did in Chapter 8. So I don't believe I've finished all this, but I will take a quick look. All right, so let's look at our submit button. And that is right here. So for now, I'm going to take and collapse this. All right, let's look at our submit. Add item list. Get question list.text. Get answer list.text. That looks good. Call, display as. All right, we removed this and we replaced it with this and set our question text and answer text both to the empty string. All right, so it looks like we're done with all that. All right, which gets us up to right here, saving persistently on the web. And I don't want to read to you, but the thing is that what they're saying is so far, the way that this is written, every time you log out, close the app or whatever, you lose all of your data. So back in, I believe it was Chapter 7 in the Where's Your Car, we worked with a TinyDB component. With the TinyDB component, it allows you to store information inside of your computer. In other words, it uses your phone or your Android device as a database. In this case, we're going to use the TinyWebDB component, and that stores the data in databases that reside on the web. Now, that is a key component. TinyDB stores data in databases that reside on the web, and that's important because remember that unless you have your own setup for this, you're setting it up on the web where everybody else has got it set up, and they could overwrite your data, use your data, or whatever. It says, what about your app design would mirror it using an online database rather than one stored on your phone? The key issue used here is that you're building two apps. All right, we're on our first one right now, but both need to access the same data. If the quiz maker stores the questions and answers on her phone, the quiz takers won't have any way of getting to the data for their quiz. As TinyWebDB stores data on the web, the quiz taker can access quiz question on a different device than from the users. So, as we talked a little bit about in the last chapter, here's the general scheme of things. We store a list to the database each time a new item is added to it, and when the app launches, we load the list from the database into a variable. So start by storing the question list and answer list in the database each time the user enters a new pair. So we're going to make some changes again here, but as it says, the tinywebdb.storeValue blocks stored data in a web database. It has two arguments. We've seen this kind of thing before. The tag, which is kind of like the field name. All right, and then the value you actually want to store. So I believe what we have to add is this into our submit button. There's our submit button. And we want to add two calls to TinyWebDB. And that's called TinyWebDB store value. All right. In the first one, we're going to want questions and get global question list. And then in the second one, it is going to be answers and get global answer list. All right, and I believe that's what we wanted to do there. As it says, for your app, you should use tags that are more distinctive. Again, as we talked about, since we're storing this in the default web database, others can overwrite your questions, including other people that use this tutorial. All right. Testing your app. Testing this part of the app is different from tests you performed previously because your app is now affecting another entity, that being the default TinyWebDB or TinyDB web service. Run the app, enter a question and answer, then open up a browser window into the default. Then click the Get Value from one of your tags. If it's working correctly, your question and answer list should appear. So run the app, enter a question and answer. I have not started up the emulator. Let's start it up now. Hopefully we won't have any problems with it. Right, so again, we will enter a question. What is the capital of Illinois? And the answer is Springfield. right, submit. Says the operation cannot accept the argument. So we've had this problem before. And what I wanted to do is to go out where they said here and take a look at what was out there. And that's what I was hoping to be able to do. Now, unfortunately, running this and getting an error message, I was not able to. So I'm going to have to go back and see if I made a coding error, but I'm just going to drudge on. One reason we need to store the question and answers in the database is to make it possible for the person creating the quiz to close the app and relaunch it later without losing any of the information they've entered. So it says, let's program the blocks for loading the list back into the app from the web database each time the web is restarted. As we've covered in earlier chapters, to specify what should happen when the app launches, you put stuff into the screen initialize event. So let's put this in. Whereas before we used the set value, we now want to use the get value. Let's make sure that when I did it before, I used the set value. I don't see anything that looks wrong there, so let's go into my screen 1, initialize, and what we want to add there is a call to tinydb1 get value for questions and for answers. There's that information for our initialize event. So again, I just added this. And in here, I believe this is all done already. Oh no, I'm sorry. We have to write this. The tinywebdb.got value, I don't think we have. So let's check. Don't believe so. So we're going to have to add that right now. And there's a lot of stuff in here. So we want an if-then block, and we're going to put another if-then block inside of it. So if is a list, get value from WebDB. All right, if is a list, then if get tag equal questions, well, we want that, but we need an equal block in here. All right, so if that is equal to questions, so if that's equal to questions, then we want to set the global question list. And we need an else in here. So we want to set global question list. And we want to set that to get value from WebDB. Else, we want to set the global answer list. So are we getting a question, or working with a question, or with an answer? All right, that's the first part. So we've got up to here. We need another if-else block underneath this. Need one right there. And this one will say if the length of the list, so we need another equals in here, and we'll want to call display QAs. We don't want anything else in there. No else needed here. Well, since I've already put it in, I'm just going to come back in here and put in an if then. Get rid of this. All right, so if length of list list we're going to need an equal block, I believe, in here. If length of list list is equal to length, and that's length of list, and that's get global question list right there. So I goofed up here. That should be equal, and if that's equal to the length of the list, get global answer list. Then we want to call display QAs. So how does this work? As the author says here, the TinyWebDB get value blocks work differently than the get value which returns. We're going to have to finish this up quickly. Get value only requests the data. It doesn't immediately receive the value. Instead, when the data arrives from the web database, the got value is triggered. You must also program that to handle what's going to happen when you get the data back. All right, let's stop right here because we're at the 20-minute mark, and we'll continue on in just a minute.